Hello, hello, hello. What is going on? I am Blake the Great, former guardian of the Gameshop. I haven't streamed in years, or barely streamed. But, every year I try to put out a list of my favorite games of the year. I'm actually doing a few lists this year, so feel free to check these out on TikTok or Facebook or wherever the hell you're watching this on. I just wanted to share my thoughts on the games I played last year. So to be clear, these are not all games that came out last year. These are the games that I played. I have 10 favorites, and I have 2 honorary mentions. So we're just going to keep it simple and sweet, because that's how TikTok videos are. Let's get started. Before we get to my top 2 picks, we need to talk about my honorable mentions. These games are great too, and I feel like they deserve a lot of love. So my 2 honorary picks are this: South of Midnight. South of Midnight really surprised me. I love the setting almost immediately. It's Southern Gothic horror with strong African-American folklore influences, which is something I'm almost never seeing in games. The myths and stories being told are clearly culturally important. As someone who loves mythology and folklore, getting exposed to stories I wouldn't normally encounter was genuinely exciting. The vibes and tone carry this game hard. The action is fine, serviceable. But I couldn't help thinking how much stronger it could have been with more influence from an action-focused studio. That said, I went in with very low expectations for Compulsion Games and came out with a lot more respect. I'm genuinely curious to see what they do next. Assuming Microsoft doesn't kill another studio I care about, I'm still bitter about fucking Hi-Fi Rush and Tango Gameworks. Fuck! Coming down, my other honorable mention, Sword of the Sea. This one was very close to my top 10. And in fact, the only reason it wasn't included in the top 10 was Prince of Persia was the last game I played last year, and it was just so much fun, I had to put it in my top 10. From the studio behind Journey and Abzu, this feels like a natural evolution of their style. It's a vibes game through and through. You're skating and surfing across sand dunes and water and seeing strange creatures with gorgeous art and music. It honestly feels like playing through a moving painting or museum. No pressure, no stress, just immaculate vibes. Number 10, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I had heard really good things about this game, but I was still skeptical. I love Metroidvanias, but I didn't expect this to be this good. Like, the beginning is a little rough, you don't have many abilities yet, and it's tougher than I expected. But once the time mechanics come online, everything just clicks. Combat and platforming become incredibly fun and satisfying. It's got a lot of variety in terms of locales too. Each area feels pretty distinct, the world design is strong, and there are tons of secrets, even if some are a bit more obtuse than I'd like. The puzzles are pretty solid though, too. They're not hard, but they're fair. My one real complaint is the optional challenge rooms. They're extremely punishing and feel hard for the sake of being hard, but they're optional, so they don't really hurt my recommendation. Overall, this game just feels great to play. I will say one thing, I feel bad that Ubisoft made this game and it didn't get a lot of love from people, so I really hope you'll check it out. I mean, despite the fact that, well, it's an Ubisoft game, and Ubisoft, I don't really wish you gave them money. I don't really honestly want to give money to any companies nowadays, but we're not here to talk about Game Pass, which I canceled. I canceled Game Pass. Mr. Xbox Game Pass Arcade canceled Game Pass. Yeah, Microsoft made me upset. I still have my Xbox, I still play on it, but I play Overwatch online, so I don't have to worry about giving Microsoft more of my money, and I'm not going to spend money on Overwatch anymore. Fuck that shit. I'm out. Number 9, Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. Okay, I love the original Space Marine, so I was extremely excited for the sequel, and on a basic level, it delivers. You're a Space Marine, killing hordes of enemies, and that's fun. That's what I signed up for. It's kind of like mindless Dynasty Warriors, a Muso game, It's just fun to kill a bunch of aliens, mixed with Gears of War. My main issue is variety. Mission design doesn't change much, and enemy encounters start to blur together. I really wish the sequel had expanded the gameplay more, but I don't know if it would have fit for what they were going for. In my view, when you're making a sequel to the game, you kind of not just have to deliver the game you made before, but you also have to give some new ideas. And this game didn't really have any new ideas, or at least not big new ideas. It was all about making the Space Marine super powerful. And maybe canonically this doesn't make sense, but I would have really liked to play as I don't know, the Space Marine, but I'm using and piloting a ship or a tank, just a couple sequences to add a little variety. But we didn't get anything like that, and that kind of made me sad. It's not really like the next game up that had a lot more variety that makes the game a lot more fun, because these are both very similar games, number 8 and number 9. Ultimately though, well, I will say, is that they introduce a second enemy faction, and it's not really different enough to solve that problem. That said, the set pieces are awesome, the tone is gritty, the combat feels great, it's worth playing. I just think it could have gone from really good to Game of the Year contender with more variety. That's all. But Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, you were a whole lot of fun. Number 8. Number 8! Doom the Dark Age. Okay, look, it's hard for me to say this is my favorite Doom game, but it's definitely an incredible one. It's hard for me to know. Going from hyper-fast Doom to a slower, tankier playstyle with shield parries and brutal combat worked way better than I expected. And honestly, it did exactly what I wanted Space Marine to do. Keep the core feel while adding meaningful new mechanics. And yeah, playing as a giant, like, robot killing things, it's a little weak and easy, but it just breaks things up and adds a little more fun. Enemy variety is great, by the way, especially the Cosmic Cthulhu adjacent stuff. I love those environments. The music is strong, the amount of content is chunky, and it's just fun to play. My only real complaint is the story. Doom lore has reached the point where I just don't care anymore. Let me kill monsters, and honestly, if this was the last Doom game for maybe 10 or 15 years, I'd be fine with taking a break. But overall, it's a great game, and you should totally play it. You should buy it on sale, not on Game Pass. Or get like a month of Game Pass or something. That's what I'm gonna start doing. Just having little months of Game Pass and just use it and play 4 months of worth of game, and then just not give them any more of my money. You really burned me, Microsoft. You really burned me. Number 7, Spider-Man 2. Okay, yeah, I love the original Spider-Man. I loved Miles Morales. And Spider-Man 2 didn't actually come out this year. I waited for it to go on sale. I picked it up for 30 bucks. By the time I finished Miles Morales, I kind of had Spider-Man out of my system, so I needed a time to back away a bit. But once I played it, yeah, it's probably the best Spider-Man game I've ever played. Combat-wise, it's not especially challenging, mostly because you're ridiculously overpowered. Miles' electric abilities are busted, and I didn't really want to play as Spider-Man most of the game until I got Black Suit Spider-Man. And that's pretty busted too. And honestly, that's what I wanted. Just a power fantasy. Just to be Spider-Man, do awesome Spider-Man shit. The symbiote storyline with Venom and Harry is great. Playing as Venom was incredible, and it's one of my favorite Venom interpretations ever. There is one moment that completely broke my brain that I have to call out. So there's this bike sequence where Peter and Harry are riding bikes together immediately after a cutscene. It's meant to be sort of a tutorial for a couple of small minigame bike sessions, which you don't really do too many of, and where Harry is struggling to just walk with a cane right before he gets on a bike. I have no idea how that made it into the game without someone stopping and questioning it. By the end, though, I felt like I'd fully emptied the Spider-Man tank. I 100%ed it. I loved it, and I'm good for a while. Until maybe the next one, I guess. Number 6, Silent Hill 2. I went into this thinking it was mostly going to be Foggy Streets. I'd never played Silent Hill 2. It's kind of been on my to-do list for a long time. It's just, I knew I wasn't gonna like the camera angle stuff and the controls. It just didn't look pleasant to play. But I was very wrong. I was very wrong to be worried because the remake shattered my expectations and honestly made me appreciate this game a lot and see why for so many, it's one of the best survival horror games of all time. The variety of locations surprised me, and everything still feels connected like a real town. Combat is solid, enemy variety could be better, but it didn't detract from the experience. The story often doesn't really make sense, but the tone and vibes are so strong that it didn't really matter. I'm just glad I finally played one of the GOATs of horror games, because Silent Hill 2 absolutely deserves that reputation. Number 5, Balatro. So when 2025 started, I said I had to play Balatro because it was such a smash hit, I think the previous year. And this game was basically my entire personality for a month and a half. Balatro is so easy to get sucked into. It's addictive for a good reason, and it's a lot of fun. It is one of the most interesting innovations I've seen on poker. It's mechanically rock solid, insanely addictive, and perfect for zoning out and hitting a flow state. My only gripe is that I wish there are more ways to influence builds, kind of like trinkets in Hades. It is a roguelike, I just wish I had a little more control over that. There's nothing like pulling off a massive combo, and nothing more soul-crushing than losing a run at the very end because of bad luck. Still, it's a lot of fun, and if you haven't played it, absolutely do it, even if you don't like poker. This next one is gonna be pretty controversial. My number 4 pick, please don't kill me, Baldur's Gate 3. I waited a long time to play this, and I really wondered if it could possibly live up to the hype. And it did. Mostly. The learning curve is kind of brutal early on, quite frankly. The economy feels weirdly unbalanced. I was always like in the beginning saving all of my stuff because money was so scarce and I wanted to buy stuff, but I didn't know when I'd be able to buy it. And I didn't really kind of get on the mechanics of just stealing from merchants until I started watching videos about it and then just started doing that instead. The pacing is also unbalanced, especially in Act 3. It didn't really fully work for me. But this game does things I miss video games doing. Meaningful choices, branching outcomes, and story moments that actually react to what you do. Characters like Carlock and Shadowheart really stood out. It didn't disappoint, and it just feels like it could have been even better with tighter pacing and a little more focus. But still, a crowning achievement, and it's honestly a studio I can't wait to play their next one. Okay, at this point, the ranking is really hard. What beat Baldur's Gate, and what will I be judged for? Well, this game wasn't about how excellent or amazing it was. This game was just the most fun as far as playing a game I think I played all year. I smiled and laughed so much. There are two games that go just above it because of the quality of those, but my number 3 pick is Split Fiction. Let me make this clear. I will buy anything Hazelight makes day one, okay? Me and my buddy, Tech, played this game, and it was phenomenal. This was the only co-op game I got to play this year, and I think that's why it really resonated with me and was my number 3. And yes, I know I could have played Baldur's Gate 3 on a co-op. I didn't have any friends to play with, okay? Calm down. The mission design is endlessly creative, and that's what they excel at. Every time, whether It Takes Two or A Way Out, which I haven't really played, but I've heard about the same kind of thing. Overall, mechanics are constantly changing, nothing overstays its welcome, and the game is bursting with confidence. Mechanically, the game is an absolute beast, and I was smiling the entire time playing it. In another year, this could have easily been my number 1, purely on enjoyment, but it comes down now to my top 2 games of the year. Okay, so rather than talk about my number 2 and my number 1 separately, I think it makes more sense to talk about these 2 games together. In any other year, either one of these games could have been my game of the year. And I'm not giving them a tie. I had to choose, but this is genuinely one of the hardest decisions I had to make, and I didn't think it was gonna be this hard. But here we go. My top 2 games of the year are Hollow Knight Silksong and Clair Obscur. Not in any particular order, we'll save that for the end. And yes, this means, by the way, that Hades 2 isn't on the list. And look, I haven't played it yet. I'm waiting for it to come to console that isn't Switch because I want to play it right and not play with low resolution and low frame rate. And I don't have a Switch 2 yet, so I'm stuck waiting, and I don't want to play it on PC. So I'm stuck waiting for the Xbox or PlayStation version. Calm down. I am excited to play it. It's probably going to be my game of the year this year. We'll see how it goes. But here we go. The last time I remember being this torn between 2 video games was in 2018, between Red Dead Redemption 2 and God of War. And that's really tough, like just super tough. So let's talk. Let's start off with Clair Obscur. On its own, Clair Obscur is a phenomenal game. I remember when I saw this game show up at E3, and I was so entranced by the look, the music, the character designs, the monster designs, everything about it just clicked. It was already something I was very interested in. The fact that it came out on Game Pass along with Hollow Knight Silksong would have been reasons for why I would say keep getting Game Pass, but I don't, because I'm not going to give Microsoft months and months of my money. I'm going to give it once in a while money. Again, fuck you, Microsoft. You really betrayed the fans. You really, really did. But this isn't a rant about Microsoft, okay? This is about talking about an incredible, awesome game. First, the story hooks me immediately. Starting with the opening prologue, it made me cry, okay? You make me cry in like 40 minutes, chances are you're doing something right, okay? I kept wanting to know what was going on, what was gonna happen next. This is easily the strongest story of any game I played this year. It stuck with me, it was haunting, it felt like playing through a French painting. The way it explores death, loss, and existential themes really resonated with me and put it up there as one of the best video game stories I've ever experienced. It's a high, high bar. I was very unsure about the gameplay going in, and I didn't think I'd enjoy a turn-based RPG again, but I was gently surprised by how much fun I had. The system works, the combat feels great, and when everything clicks, it really clicks. The music, acting, and motion capture are all excellent, and knowing how small the team was makes it even more impressive. This game does so much with so little. That said, difficulty is where things start to fall apart for me. I'm terrible at pairing. The only pairing I've ever gotten well is Bloodborne, and I'm still kicking myself in the butt for not being able to get pairing down in Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. The thing of it is I'm like awful at pairing, and I played the entire game, don't judge me, on story difficulty. Because of that, I try to go back to normal difficulty after I felt like I got the parries, but by that time, if you miss a parry, it was so punishing that it stopped being fun. This really shows in Act 3, which becomes pretty much a grind. It kind of reminds me of Final Fantasy VII's final disc, because you could just go to Sephiroth and fight him, but it's easier if you do a lot of overworld stuff and get a gold chocobo and get Knights of the Round and various other things to help you fight this really hard boss. And the problem is that, well, in Act 3, you can just go to the last mission, but there's all this stuff that you've been seeing in the world that you couldn't explore that now you can explore, but it's super duper hard. And the problem is, once I got to the end of Clair Obscur, the combat, I just felt I was kind of going through the motions, you know? Story, difficulty, it's great, but it's no substitute for having accessibility controls. That's one of the things I really loved about Doom: The Dark Age. They allowed you to tune everything: the enemy health, the weapons, your speed, and especially the parry window. If Clair Obscur had just given me ability to have a parry window that was a little more forgiving, where I felt like I wouldn't have cared about the combat, or I wouldn't have cared about the difficulty, if Clair Obscur had just given me a tool to tweak the parrying window just enough so I felt like I was having enough of a challenge, but also having a good time. I hope someday that maybe there's an update for that so I can recommend it to even more people, and I'll still recommend it to a lot of people. I'll just say, hey, if the combat's hard, just play it on story mode, play for the story alone, because it's really well worth it. Clair Obscur deeply impressed me and gave me real hope for the future of AA games, because we all know what AAA games are. Hollow Knight Silksong. I waited years of my life to play this game. I knew from the get-go, the moment this game came out, it was probably gonna be my game of the year, and the wait was worth it, okay? I 100%ed Silksong, not on the hardest difficulty. I'm not that cruel to myself, and I felt compelled to explore every corner, every crevice, everything the game had to offer. The music is fantastic. The art and art direction are phenomenal. The gameplay mechanics are just as tight and polished as the first game. In fact, even a little bit better. The amount of content in this game is honestly criminal. I beat this game in 72 hours, and it only cost me 20 bucks. That should be illegal. I genuinely feel like I'm stealing from Team Cherry. In fact, I'm actually thinking about buying extra copies of Hollow Knight Silksong just because I want to support them. And I did buy Hollow Knight Silksong, by the way, after I canceled Game Pass, because I didn't want to be held hostage to Game Pass. Mechanically, this game is immaculate. The bosses are excellent. Exploration never stops being rewarded, except for in the poison swamps, because those fucking frogs are just so fucking, oh my God. I have PTSD from those moments. And unlike Clair Obscur, I wanted to engage with almost all of the optional content. I enjoyed Silksong so much that I immediately replayed Hollow Knight 1 afterward just to compare. And the answer is that both games are incredible, but it's kind of hard to compare them. It's kind of like comparing, well, Arkham Asylum to Arkham City, you know? So, what won out? What was my number one? Well, if you didn't guess by now, it was Silksong. It really comes down to this. I enjoyed the entire experience of Silksong. While Clair Obscur has the better story, Silksong is the better video game. I never felt locked out of content. I never felt punished for my skill ceiling. I never felt like I was only enjoying most of the game. With Silksong, I wanted to see everything. With Clair Obscur, by the end, I just wanted to finish. And that difference mattered. If Silksong hadn't come out this year, Clair Obscur would have easily won my game of the year. But it did come out, and it delivered completely. So, with that being said, Hollow Knight Silksong is, of course, my game of the year. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and comment and tell me what your games of the year were. What were your some favorite games of last year? Let me know. Please, I really want to know. I love connecting with gamers. Other than that, have a lovely day. This is Blake the Great, God in the Game Shop, reminding you as always to keep on gaming. Goodbye!